So Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to tonight's Bhakti Night program. My name is Prahladananda and welcome. Is anybody's first time here? Wow, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. So tonight we have a very special guest. His Holiness Prahladananda Swami has come and joined us, and I'll give a brief introduction to him. Prahladananda Swami is a guru and a member of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and a disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And he joined Krishna Consciousness in 1969, 50 plus years ago, in Buffalo, New York. And since then, he has traveled all over the world sharing Krishna Consciousness. In 1982, he took the order of sannyas, and in 1986, he became an initiating guru. And in 1989, he became a member of the Vrindavan Institute for Higher Education, and he's also the head of the governing body's Committee on Health and Welfare. So he's also currently the head of the Sannyas Ministry.
What does that mean?
The sannyas of the renounced order of life. So we're very honored to have His Holiness Prahladananda Swami, and he'll be speaking about the topic of life comes from life. So the schedule is Swami Maharaj will speak for about 40-45 minutes. Then you have time to ask for questions. Then we'll have one more kirtan. Then we'll have Prashadam. So without further ado, let's give a big round of applause to Prahladananda.
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Bacharane Nirvishesha Shnivadi Paskadhyade Siddharna. So who here has read part of the Bhagavad Gita, a book called the Bhagavad Gita? Everyone knows the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So as you might know, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna begins his instructing Arjuna with these particular Sanskrit words. Everyone who has heard of Sanskrit before? Okay. We'll give the translation though. Denosmi nitha dehe kamaram yovanam jara tata dahantara praptir diryas tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continually passes in a body, and the body is going from boyhood to youth to old age, so similarly the soul will pass into another body at the time of death. The self-realized souls are not bewildered by all these changes. The point is that actually we're all eternal. So that should be good news. Everyone is trying to live as long as they can in this material world, or at least most people are. As a matter of fact, the main problems of the material existence, of all the different problems, probably the most perplexing problem, the most disturbing problem, is that we have to leave this body. And therefore, we think we're going to die. But actually, it's not possible as I said the other day, it's not possible for us to die. Because what we think is going to die is already dead. Namely, this body. Not only is the body dead, but at every moment it's changing. We've changed so many different bodies, and yet we haven't died. We're still the same person. Therefore, at the time of leaving the body, we don't die. Just like if you get into a car and you identify yourself with the car, and at least we say in Sanskrit, the Sanskrit word for identification is aham. Car, actually, aham car. So when we identify ourselves with the car, we call that a aham car, or the false identification with the body. So actually, the body will always change, but we ourselves who are experiencing the body and everything that the body is experiencing, we're not changing. Otherwise, where is a body we had when we were 3 years old. Does anyone know where it is? Where is the body, our 3-year-old body? Where did it go? Now we may say that no one knows. Maybe we should go look for it. Yes.
Disappear like a
3
pop.
years old body, meaning physical body or spiritual body?
What's that?
You said 3 years old body, meaning spiritual body or?
We are a spirit soul.
Oh, okay, spirit.
We're the ones who make the body conscious. The body by itself is not conscious. You can't say, my hand is not talking to you, but I'm aware of my hand. If you cut off my hand, which I don't suggest, but still, I'll be able to talk to you. Maybe after some time. It might be a little pain, though. But the person who's aware of the body is the one who's communicating, the conscious person. The body is unconscious. When we call it the soul, different words in different languages, but in English we call the person who's alive and conscious in the body the soul. But the body which is conscious of is not alive. Because there's no part, just like one time Prabhupada was in a school and he asked who was the most intelligent student in the school. So one boy stood up and actually, the other students said, this is the most intelligent student in the school. So they put that student forward and Prabhupada asked him, which we can all try. Do exactly, of course. Prabhupada asked him, can you point to your nose? Can everyone here point to their nose? I know it's a tough question, but can you point to your ear? Can you point to your other ear? You can point to your shoulder, point to your other shoulder, to your leg, to your other leg. Now can you point to yourself? Yeah, pretty close, yeah. A little to the right. So we ourselves are the person who's aware of this body, but the body that we're aware of is not ourself. Just like if you have a puppet and you put the hand in the puppet, then the puppet appears to be alive. You can move your hand, the puppet will move because we're moving our hand. The puppet is not moving our hand, the hand is moving the puppet. So we're moving the body is actually not moving us because we're not going anywhere. We're always in the same place. Do you ever feel like you're in the big toe sometimes? You take rest at night, you wake up, you're in the toe? No, we never go anywhere. We're always in the same place. Our consciousness can go in all different parts of the body. I mean, we can become conscious. Just like I mentioned the toe, probably everyone thought about their toe. Hopefully your toe doesn't hurt you. So our consciousness can go in different parts of the body, just like the sun is in one place, but illuminates the universe with its sunlight. So we're in one place in the body, and we're illuminating the body with our consciousness. So the puppet, we put our hand in the puppet and it moves. Now if we take our hand out of the puppet, we don't die, but the puppet falls down on the floor. Now everyone may think that somehow or another the puppet had a heart attack. They don't know what happened. And they start doing some technique on the puppet to bring it back to life again, and they can't do it. It's not breathing anymore. And so they conclude the puppet's dead. But actually the puppet was never alive, so something that was never alive can't die. So although we're afraid that the body might die, but we don't have to worry about that because it's already dead. And something that's dead can't die. But we ourselves within the body that we're actually concerned about, we don't die either, because in spite of all the changes of the body, we haven't died yet. Therefore, the conclusion is that we're eternal, and even the energy in this world is also eternal, because it doesn't disappear, it just changes. So this is Krishna's first instruction in the Bhagavad Gita. Now the question may arise that why is the eternal soul in a temporary body? If we're all eternal, why have we been put into a temporary body? Of course, some so-called scientists claim that life comes from material energy. But has anyone ever observed from material energy life is coming? They used to think that scorpions come out of rice. But actually the scorpion mother had to lay the eggs in the rice for the scorpions to be born out of the rice. So the idea that from matter life is coming has never been demonstrated. Only in the movies. Does anyone know in the movies they've demonstrated life coming from matter? Think of your favorite movie. Begins with an F. Frankenstein. But that was the only time. And even that was just a movie, because Frankenstein was actually, whoever played Frankenstein was alive before they put the gelatin into his head. He may have been a little dizzy after that, but he still played the part pretty well. That's the background music, by the way. We'll wait till it passes. If you want to know what the subway is, it's right underneath.
Like a doorway down there.
Yeah. We can give you a free pass to the subway. There's a door over there. So the question is, although the soul is eternal and the body is temporary, why would a nice soul like ourselves be put into this temporary body? So the actual truth is that we've been arrested by the illusory energy. In other words, it is clear that if we're eternal, but we think we're temporary, we must be under some control of some energy that puts us into illusion, because we're not seeing things properly. So why would that happen? Well, we can get to that a little bit later, but the actual understanding, according to the Bhagavad Gita, is because we've been arrested by the illusory energy, or at least we've been put under the spell of the illusory energy, and therefore we think we're eternal. We think we're temporary. And we're always afraid of leaving this body. Although, at the same time, the amazing thing is that we think we're going to live forever in this body. No one thinks tomorrow I'm going to disappear. We think somehow or another, I'm going to be here for like a long, long, long time. Just like there were 5 brothers, they were known as the Pandavas, 5,000 years ago. And they were in a forest one day, and they were very thirsty because there was no water. So the head of the Pandavas, his name was Yudhisthira Maharaj, he asked his brother to climb up on top of a tree and see if somewhere in the distance there's some water. So that particular brother, he climbed the tree. His name was Arjuna. And he saw it far in the distance there was some water. There's some water too, not so far. And he told Yudhisthira Maharaj that the water is somewhere in the distance there. So Yudhisthira Maharaj said, go and see if you can find how the water is. So Arjuna went to the place where the water was, but he was just about to drink because he was so thirsty. But he heard a voice from the sky, and the voice said, "Before you drink, you have to answer my questions." But he was so thirsty, Arjuna, that he immediately took some water, and then he died. Some of the water in America is like that now, I heard.
From the sink.
Anyhow, this was even more powerful. So Arjuna didn't return. So Yudhisthira Maharaj sent his other brother, his name was Bhima, very strong, powerful warrior. And he came upon his brother, and he was really thirsty, so he also wanted to drink the water. But he heard the same voice. "Before you drink the water, you must answer my questions." But he drank the water anyhow, and he died also. It's not a sad ending, by the way. It's not one of these horror stories. And then Yudhisthira Maharaj was concerned, so he had his brother, two twin brothers named two brothers go and try to see what had happened. So the brothers went there, and they saw that their two other brothers had died, but they were very thirsty. And they also wanted to drink the water. What is the two brothers' names? Sahadev and Nakula. So they drank the water too. They heard this voice, "Oh, before you drink this water, you better answer my questions."
Answer the question.
But they drank the water anyhow, and they died. So now he had 4 dead brothers and 1 alive. So he wanted to find out what happened to his brothers. So he went there, he saw 4 of them had died, but he was very thirsty, so he was about to drink the water, and he heard the voice, "Before you drink the water, you better answer my questions." So he said, "Well, maybe it's a good idea. I better answer the questions first."
Already dead.
So he said, "All right." So this person came out of the water, and he had 100 questions to ask Yudhisthira Maharaj, great king. And one of the questions was, what is the most amazing thing in this material world? And at that time he answered, Sanskrit, "Ahani ahani bhutani gachanti amalayam shesha starva ichanti kemascharya atakparam." The most amazing thing in this world is that at every moment we can see so many people are dying. Well, maybe we don't see it. Maybe in New York you do, I don't know. She saw something like that the other day. But we can see so many living entities are dying. But those who are still alive, they think that they're going to live here forever. Sorry to give you the bad news. That we're not going to be in the body forever. But the good news is that we're not going to die when the body dies. We're going to go somewhere else. The bad news is that we don't know where we're going to go. But the amazing thing is that we don't really care. And there's so many theories and speculations that, of course, because we're not good people, we're going to go to heaven, wherever that is. And if someone told us about reincarnation, that after leaving this body, we may come back in another form of life, we don't really believe it, because I'm a good person. First of all, we don't think we're going to leave this body at any time soon. It's going to be a long, long, long way from now. Just like, of course, if we look back in our lives, we think about when I was 5 years old, Was that really long, long, long ago, or was it just like a moment?
Feels like both sometimes.
Depends if you're in the dentist or not. When we're in pain, dentist, yeah. We're in pain, time goes very, very, very slowly. And when we're enjoying, then it goes really quickly. If you remember back in your school days, or if you're in school, if you didn't like your course, the 5 days were really slow. And the weekends, they just went by. Especially summer vacation. You say, oh my God, I'm going to have 2 months off. This is going to be wonderful. If it, back in school again, what happened? Where did it all go? So the fact is that time is going very quickly when we're enjoying and very, very slowly when we're suffering. But in any case, the living entity doesn't stay in the material world forever. And where we're going to go next, we don't know. That's even a bigger problem. Now, of course, after giving a lecture like I'm giving in one university, one lady stood up. Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture like this at the university. And after the Prabhupada's lecture, one lady stood up and said, Swamiji, you say that after I leave this body, if I don't act properly, I may come back as a dog. But I want you to know, I don't care if I get back as a dog. I want to become a dog. So Prabhupada put up his hand and said, you have my blessings. I mean, after all, sometimes, in some circumstances, dogs are treated better than human beings are.
Is that in America?
They get fed better. They have a nice bed. They even have their own house, even in the building. They have their own house. They don't have to pay rent. They don't have to pay for food. All they do is have to bark, and everything is provided. Now, if we bark, maybe everything will be provided too. They'll put us in some padded cell, and we can bark all day. But we can't go out and play with the other dogs. So we don't know where we're going to go. And the idea that we're only going to go to a nice place is also wrong. Because where all these trees come from, where all the insects come from. They're also conscious living entities like we are, but they're in a body which doesn't allow them to exhibit their consciousness very much. So the point is that we are not the body, but in the human form of life, we have a much better opportunity to understand who we actually are than in another species of life. And besides that, it's not very pleasant living in a temporary world where we're trying to be happy, because basically speaking, we only have 3 objectives in life. Everyone, whoever they are, they only have 3 objectives in life. One of them is that we all want to know how to become happy. Now, no one takes a course, How to Be Miserable. Oh, my dear professor, please tell me how I can be unhappy and miserable all the time. No, everyone is taking educational courses and inquiring how to become happy, but for how long? For as long as possible. We'd like to be happy forever, but then we have to realize we're eternal. And therefore, one of our main problems is, although we may be eternal, we're not happy right now, as happy as we'd like to be. Or sometimes we're happy and sometimes we're not happy. So that's the problem for someone who wants to be happy. If we're eternal, we want to be eternally happy. So we want to know how to become eternally happy. Just like if I gave everyone here a free ticket to fly to India for one of our festivals there, how many of our guests here would take a free ticket to fly to India? So fortunately, we have a very wealthy devotee here, Janaran Das.
You see him after.
You can see him after class, if you can find him.
He's gonna run away through
Gotta follow him.
the metro door.
He'll give you at least an IOU. So just imagine we're on a flight flying over to India for a big festival that we have. And the pilot is, of course, the only airlines we fly on is called Air Hare Krishna. That's our airlines, in case you didn't know. So on the flight, the pilot makes an announcement. It says, "Welcome to Air Hare Krishna. We hope you enjoy the flight. We have a nice feast prepared for you. There's going to be 15 different preparations. And for those who are Westerners, we're going to give pizza and ice cream also, and cheese sandwiches. So we hope you enjoy the flight. And we also have a nice movie called The Hare Krishnas in the Sacred Land, enjoying a big feast on a big holiday. But my co-pilot has just informed me we only have one other short announcement. Unfortunately, the person who was supposed to give the money for the fuel didn't appear. And therefore, we only could fill up the tank halfway. So we estimate that we're going to crash into the ocean in about half an hour. But don't worry. We have expert servers on board, and they're going to be able to serve out practically all the preparations before we crash. And also, although the movie lasts for a little bit longer than we have time left in the flight, but according to my co-pilot, that if you pray to Krishna, Krishna will let you come back and see the other half. So we hope you enjoy the flight. Chant Hare Krishna, be happy. So some of us might lose our appetite on the way over. But the problem is that although we may think we're going to be forever, eventually this body is going to crash. Even if we're on a plane, the plane doesn't crash, but this body is going to crash sooner or later. So the point is, why would this eternal soul be put into this very unfortunate position? Of course, human form of life is not so unfortunate because we have an opportunity to understand. Just like we invited so many dogs that we met on the street to come, but none of them came. Because they have no capacity to appreciate or understand what we're talking about. But the reason why we've been put into this material body and having to go through these problems, like taking birth. Because nowadays, taking birth is deemed very romantic. Matter of fact, we have this celebration called Happy Birthday. Isn't that right? Everyone's supposed to be happy on your birthday. I remember my father would say, he's the birthday boy, so he can get whatever he wants.
Smart father.
So, happy birthday. No one sings, Happy Death Day to you, Happy Death Day to you. That they don't sing. It's happy birthday. But was birth actually so happy? Can you remember you being happy on birth? That you come out and immediately, what do they do? Happy birthday. But anyhow, we have to have some, optimism here. So, okay, birthdays are happy, but birth is not so happy. And old age, in case you don't know, old age is not the prime of one's life. The golden ages are not necessarily the most enjoyable ages, physically at least. And then there's disease, just like everyone here is trying to sit up straight, including myself, because we're not at ease. Sometimes we take shelter of the wall and things. That's called dis-ease. So everyone has to experience disease. And then there is death. So these are the actual problems of life. And why are we put into these problems of life? What did we do? So the point is that we're trying to steal. We're thieves. That's like when one is a thief, at least in some parts of the world, then one is put into jail. So those are most of the people in jails are because they did something wrong. They violated the law. So because we violated the laws of nature, we've been put into a material body, although we're spiritual beings. So what is that law? The law is that actually nothing here belongs to us, and that this whole material universe actually has a purpose behind it. The purpose behind it is that we're supposed to find out who actually is the owner of this material world. It's like it's a quest to find out the owner. And when we find out the owner, we get out of jail free. It's like playing Monopoly. You get the card, get out of jail free. So the point is there an owner? Where did everything come from? So that's the question. Did it all come out of nothing, as I said the other day? Did everything just appear out of nothing? Does anyone have experience that they were kind of sitting at home one day at your desk and you were thinking, it'd be so nice if I had a Mac computer, and then suddenly it just appeared out of nothing. And you say, where did this come from? And your friend said, well, it just came out of nothing, like everything else came out of. I don't think any of us, at least I never had that experience. Anyone have experience? Now, if we believe that everything came out of nothing, then why doesn't more things come out of nothing? Just like the idea that there was nothing and that it had nothing to do because it was nothing. Not only that, but it was nothing. So everyone said, whenever we try to talk to someone, people wouldn't listen because they said, you're just nothing. So one day, Mother Nothing, because everyone has a mother, said to Son Nothing, why don't you make something out of yourself? You're an embarrassment to the family because you're nothing. You're good for nothing. So Nothing tried very hard for many, many years, more than we can conceive of, and finally it figured out how to make something out of itself. So it became a little bit of gas. Almost about the same amount of gas that most people can create after a big meal. But it was something at least. He was on the way to becoming something. So after some time, the gas settled down, and Mother Nothing still wasn't very satisfied. And so she complained that, why don't you, do something important? Why, become something important? As a matter of fact, as far as I'm concerned, you stink. So Son Nothing, who became some gas, decided to make himself something, but he couldn't, so he became angry and exploded, like sometimes gas explodes. And then it flew everywhere. And then finally Mother Nothing said, why don't you just settle down? So he settled down, and here we are now. All expansions of nothing. So is that our experience? As I said the other day, where did we come from? Now everyone will probably agree that we all have a father and mother. That's one thing we all have in common. We all have a father and mother, or had a father and mother. And our father and mother had a father and mother, and our father and mother had a father. It goes all the way back to where? Do we actually believe that one of our ancestors, you're turning your the book, your ancestral book, and you turn one page and you turn it, and there's a monkey. And you're surprised. I didn't know we had a monkey in the family. I thought my brother was the only monkey. So this is an actual monkey. What's his name? His name is Grandfather Harry. Because he looked like he never shaved. And Grandmother Lucy's there too with him. And you turn the page and then there's a sheep. And lo and behold, it's a black sheep. Ah, that's the black sheep everyone's been talking about. And the family. I was wondering what he looked like.
Wonder what that was.
And you turn the page and there's one mouse. That's Grandfather Squeaky. But luckily he's a mouse rather than a rat. Everyone was telling me he was a rat, but actually he was a mouse. They got it wrong. It wasn't so bad. And you turn the page and there's a rock. You think, what is this? Where did this rock come from? Well, don't complain. That rock was the most solid member of your family. And you finally you turn the page and there's nothing. Oh, that's where we all came from. That's Grandfather Nothing. Good for nothing. But luckily he made something out of himself. Therefore we're here now. So do we actually believe that? That out of nothing a rock came? Or gas and then a rock and exploded? And we have ancestors who are mice and sheep and monkeys and whatever. Do we actually believe that? Do you go to the zoo one day and you see there's a monkey, you look at her child that she just gave birth to and said, oh, that does look like my brother.
That monkey.
No, from monkeys come monkeys. From human beings come human beings. We've never seen a monkey give birth to a human being. So where does this idea come from? Science fiction. What goes on the name of science nowadays is just science fiction. There's no proof. There's no evidence. There's no experience. It's just a idea they put forward, and they built museums on that basis with a lot of money to convince people that science fiction is real. Now, the idea is that, all right, we may be eternal. We came from where? Now, if our fathers and mothers had a father and mother, and the father, etc., go back, then how can the source of everything not be a person also, like we are? Where in our ancestral line do we find that there wasn't a person? Only from people come people. From living entities come living entities. So the original person must also be a person. But according to our philosophy, he's not an ordinary person. He's a much more attractive person than we are. In other words, the Supreme has to have everything we have, but if he's the Supreme, the source of everything, he must have much more than we have. Much more beauty, much more wealth, much more strength, much more knowledge, much more renunciation, and more fame. Everyone's talking about God. Either they believe in him or they don't believe in him. No one's talking about us. No one. If you go in New York City and you ask about myself, no one's talking whether I exist or not. They couldn't care less. It doesn't make any difference in their life whether I exist or not. But God, everyone has their opinion. Either he exists or he doesn't exist. So he must be a very special person. He's the most famous person because some people believe he exists and some people believe he doesn't exist. But at least they're talking about him. So the theory is, it's a theory, that this material world is under the control of the Supreme Person. What does that mean? Now, we may not know exactly who that person is. We can theoretically understand that he must be an amazing person. Otherwise, how could everything come from him? On the other hand, one thing is that we have experience of is how he's controlling this material universe. And that energy is called time. In case you haven't, of course, all of us have noticed that time is changing everything. There must be an energy changing everything, because the other energies, around us, whether it be the solid energy or the gaseous energy or the fiery energy that transforms things, these energies by themselves don't do anything. But something's changing them, changing all the energy all the time. So that time is also, just like we're eternal, it's also eternal, because time never changes. We may experience it in different ways, but it's always the same. It's not that we wake up one day, we read in the newspapers, maybe the New York Times. By the way, it's called New York Times.
Yeah, times.
That fortunately today we woke up and time died. No more time. It just disappeared. It died. We had a funeral for it at the New York Times. It died in New York, by the way. Got run over by a subway. So now we're free from time. No, time never changes and nothing affects time. You can't take an atomic bomb and explode it and kill time. Of course, you could do that too. It's one way of killing time. But time is a super villain. It never dies. You can try to kill time, but nothing happens. So time is eternal and it's changing everything and it's working under some intelligent design. Otherwise, why is it that under time, the sun is arising at a certain time and then setting at a certain time? And the scientists can figure out exactly in 100 years ago where the sun will be at exactly this time. It's working better than any watch is working. My watch will not be around in 100 years, I don't think. At least I won't be around to find out whether it's here or not.
Yes, you will.
Not in this, hopefully I'll get a better watch the next time. So, time is changing everything, and time is moving things in such a way exactly on time. Now in New York, people have to be on time or else they get fired, usually. Or they'll fail their course. But the sun is exactly on time, precisely, for so many years. Now the sun is so vast and powerful that according to one personality who's known as one of the controllers of this universe, the sun is full of infinite effulgence, infinite heat, infinite light, and yet it's exactly on time. Something's moving it in a way that is more precise than a Swiss watch. Now that same personality, he says in a book of prayers called the Brahma Samhita, he says that Yatchaksha Esha Savitasa Kala Grahanam Rajasamasta Murti Asheshateja Yasyagaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. What he says in English is that Yatchaksha, that the sun is like an eye. In the light of the sun we can see. So therefore it's compared to an eye. Full of infinite effulgence, it is said that if the earth was a little bit closer to the sun, we'd all be burnt. You're talking about global warming. Well, we get quite warm. Matter of fact, you go everyone would be, look like a pile of ashes, actually. And if the sun moved a little, or the earth moved a little further away from the sun, then everything would be frozen. You would need a refrigerator. But there's a relationship between the sun and this planet, so in such that we can be relatively sure it's not going to get that extreme. Whatever the climate change is, we're not going to turn into a pile of ashes, nor are we going to become a popsicle. So who's moving the sun? Just like in India, they had this very powerful animal called the bull. And at least previously in India, they didn't have the means to grind. They didn't have grinding mortars. They used the bull to crush the grains that they harvested. And the bull would pull a very heavy weight and walk around in a circle crushing the grains with that heavy weight in the back. And the bull would be attached by its nose by a rope to a pole so he couldn't move. So they'd take him around, and crush the grain. But he couldn't move 1 inch beyond the rope, although he was so powerful to pull a heavy weight that would take 50 men, strong men, to pull. So similarly, the sun is so powerful, infinite effulgence, the scientists say that in one moment the sun is giving off more heat and light than all human society has used since its known existence. But yet the sun can't move 1 inch beyond its orbit. It's not moving 1 inch beyond its orbit. So who's pulling the sun? Who's moving the sun? It must be a supremely not only intelligent person, but powerful person. Otherwise, if the scientists knew who's doing the whole thing, or how it's being done, then why don't they create a little sun? If they actually know how it came about. Just a little sun, just big enough to put over in the North Pole and help out the Eskimos. What's the big deal? According to them, it just came about by accident. So with all their intelligence, just a little tiny sun. All right, it's difficult. The dollar's not worth so much. We're on a big budget now. We can't create such a sun. All right, just create a little tiny sun and just let it circulate in this room during the winter when it gets cold in this room. And therefore everyone here can stay nice and cozy and watch the sun move around. The little tiny sun. But they can't even create a sun the size of a pin. All they can do is talk about accident, how everything came about by accident. But with all their intelligence, they can't even duplicate an accident. Besides, there are no accidents. Could you imagine going on the street here in New York and 2 cars crash into each other? And the police come and say, what happened? They said, don't worry about it. It was just an accident. No, there must have been some cause of it. No, it was just an accident. Don't worry. No, there's always a cause even for an accident. Nothing's accidental. You can't claim, don't give me a ticket. It was just an accident. No cause behind it. I'm not responsible. It was the accident that was responsible. So the conclusion is, at least theoretically, using our intelligence, there must be an intelligent person who's very powerful. And if he's so powerful that he's, through his energy called time, he's changing everything in this material world. Now, on the other hand, we're claiming this material world belongs to us. That this is my land, and this is your land, and that your land should be my land. It's called the give and take theory, or the give and take philosophy. That you give to me, and I take from you. Now the problem is, if the person's so powerful and he has a police force, and we try to steal from him, claim that this material world belongs to us, then what happens? He's arrested us. And we want to find out what the prison looks like. All we do is have to look in the mirror. As I said the other day, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? So probably most of our cases, if not all, the mirror will answer, you're looking at him. You're so fortunate, you're seeing the deity within your mirror. Your worshipful deity, your object of love and service is right there. So now do something about it. Purify the deity, bathe the deity, take a shower. We call that in Sanskrit abhishek. Now you must clothe the deity, because otherwise if you don't clothe it nicely, how it will be worshipful for everyone else? Sometimes you have to paint the deity. You have to make the deity attractive. Then you have to feed the deity, give it some energy so it can go out and spread its glories all over the world. So everyone has a deity. It's this body in the material world. And we're serving it very faithfully, without any interruption, and completely dedicated to it. Even at the time of death, we're still trying to hang on to our service to the deity. We're so attached to this deity that even it's trying to kick us out. No, don't. I want to serve you. Don't kick me. Don't throw me out of here. Just give me some more years. I'll serve you even better than I did before. But the actual person who's moving everything, who's supposed to be all attractive, we don't care anything about him. It's my deity that really counts in this world. I got to stay here forever if it's possible. Tell me how to stay here and serve my deity forever. Although it's giving me teeth aches and my toe hurts and stomach ache, but still I'm so faithful. I love you so much. You can kick me, I'll still stay here and serve you. Such dedication, such devotion we have, but for the wrong thing, that's all. Now, the problem in the material world is that we're all trying to be good people. Everyone's trying to be a good person. It doesn't matter who they are. Everyone thinks they're good. I guess I have a few more minutes. Two-Gun Pete. You've heard of Two-Gun Pete? You've heard of Al Capone?
Yeah.
He was a close associate. So Two-Gun Pete, he was famous because he killed a lot of people, but in order to protect his reputation, he always shot them twice with different guns. So he had a reputation. He was called Two-Gun Pete. So one day he was on Lover's Lane in a very romantic occasion, and one unfortunate policeman put his flashlight right into the car. So this was a great offense. Two-Gun Pete took it very seriously, so he shot the policeman. And then, of course, he got out of the car in order to protect his reputation, took the policeman's gun and shot him again. Unfortunately, the other policemen who were nearby didn't appreciate how Two-Gun Pete had to protect his reputation and his romantic affair, how it had to be not disturbed. So there was a big chase, and finally they cornered him in a house, and there was a big shootout between the police and Two-Gun Pete. So before Two-Gun Pete, he lost the shootout, by the way. Before he lost, he wrote a letter to his mother. He said, "Dear Mom, actually I'm a nice person. Unfortunately, other people misunderstand me. By the way, please take care of the cat. Your son, Petey, with love." So everyone thinks they're a nice person. But the point is that how can you be a nice thief? Just like a band of thieves, they rob a bank. And the head thief, they go to their hideout, And the head thief stands up and says, "My dear fellow thieves, you did a great job. All glories to the thieves. Thieves, great. Everyone give the thieves a thumb up." Now that we've robbed the bank, I only have one request to all you glorious thieves. Please, please, I beg of you, let us divide the money up honestly. So they're a group of thieves, they've stolen the money, and now they're going to turn honest by dividing it up honest amongst the thieves. So we've come to the material world, we don't see the proprietor, most people couldn't care less about if there's God. Well, if there's a God, at least he should give me more of what I want. He's the big daddy, so big daddy gives me what I want. Or else he's useless. Prabhupada tells the story of the French and the Germans and the English were fighting each other during World War I and World War II. So all the French ladies and the German ladies and the English ladies and the American ladies, they all went to church. I grew up on Church Avenue, by the way, right near there. There used to be churches all everywhere. They all went to church and prayed, "My dear Lord, please bring back my son. Please bring back my father. Please bring back my husband." But they're killing each other. The French are killing the Germans are killing the English. So many people are dying, they're not coming home. So all these ladies, the French ladies, the German ladies, the English ladies, they say, "Well, God's not answering our prayers. He doesn't exist. He doesn't listen to anyone. He's useless." But the idea is that, did anyone ask God if he wanted a war or not? How can you have a war and God's going to say, "All right, no one's going to die. Everyone's going to turn into Superman"? No, there's a war going on. People are going to die. It's not God's fault. He never asked for it. No one asked God if he wanted a war in the first place. So the point is that if we're trying to be honest and good, then we should recognize who the proprietor is. Or else we're thieves and we'll get punished. We're not as good as we'd like to think ourselves to be if we're stealing from the Supreme. And then we wind up, because of that tendency, we wind up stealing from others too. Just like most of us know that whoever you elect, at least some of us, at least I believe, it doesn't matter who you elect in this country. The only difference is which pocket they'll pick. In other countries, they have multiple different parties. But here it's simple. You usually have two parties. One party will pick your right pocket, and the other will pick the left one. So that's the choice, who you want to pick your pocket. Of course, that's my idea. It means sometimes they say that if you look back in history, do you know how to tell when a politician is lying? Anyone have any idea? There's a sure way of knowing when a politician is lying. Anyone have any idea? When they start moving their mouths.
Oh.
Then you know they're lying. Anyhow, we may have some faith in some persons like that, but not all of them are so honest. So the point is, unless we find out who the Supreme is, unless we find out what the Supreme wants us to do with his energies, then there may not be any opportunity to find out who we are and how life has actually come from life rather than from nothing. So I think I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I had to write my question down. In the Gita, it states that the soul never comes into being, nor has it ever come into being. I'm curious, is there a point at which the individual souls were created by the Supreme Being? Or have they always existed in the eternal state without a starting point?
Well, if something has a starting point, then it's not eternal. Just like what's the start? What could we say is the starting point of the sun rays? Now there's the sun, and we say the sun, the rays come from the sun. But when did the rays come from the sun? Was there a time that the sun existed and the rays didn't exist? Is that possible? So, and that's the material example. So we're eternal right now. So do you remember a time when you didn't exist? In other words, if we're eternal now, and the material nature doesn't really change us, then how can we not? At what point would we not exist? What would cause us to be non-existent? Under illusion, we think there was a time where I was born. There's a time I died, but I'm not born and die. The material nature doesn't affect me, so I exist in the eternal present. There's only my existence is in the eternal. So in the eternal present, there's no past, present, future. There's only the eternal present. So as an analogy, we may say we came from the Supreme, but actually we always exist with the Supreme. Is that clear? At least theoretically. It's not easy to understand. I mean, after all, we're used to everything having a beginning and end here, except for ourselves. Anything else? Yes.
How do you know to find out before life or between life of a physical body?
What's going to happen to us before?
How do you find it?
You have to follow a process by which we can become more conscious than we are now. If we want to discover something or experience something beyond what we know now, we have to follow a scientific process by which our awareness becomes more expands. So that's what Bhagavad Gita is about. It explains the different processes by which our consciousness expands, so we can discover new things, such as that. There are different processes. They're known as different types of yogas. And the highest yoga Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is this process that we're following is called Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of love and appreciation.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Anything else? Okay.
Hare Krishna. Let's give a big round of applause to Prahladananda Maharaj.